Hello everyone and welcome back to my video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Kagaribi 11, a premier event that is being held this weekend in Japan. And though there aren't any invaders this time around aside Flo from France, it is still the exact same caliber because pretty much all of Japan's top talent is showing up to compete for our top 16 seeds. You're going to have Proto Bonham, now Tsubaki and Riziyasu in 13th, Yara, T, Hito, and Hurt in 9th, Zach Ray and Ken in 7th, Yoshidora and Kameme in 5th, Shuon in 4th, Osimo in 3rd, Mia in 2nd, and seed to win the whole thing is, of course, Akala. So our first top seed is going to be Mia, and he is definitely the favorite to go through on the winner's side of the bracket. There's a couple upsets I could see happening, most specifically right here with Matara and Nao. Now, they're projected to both lose to Nao, but I think Meta Knight and especially Korin do well enough versus Mario where it's realistic that we could see those upsets. And for the records versus Mia, you're going to have Matara actually beating Mia at the last Kagaribi, and I believe that was the last time that they played. So it has been a little bit, and I'm sure Mia has adjusted to the matchup a little better, but Matara, he's shown that he can do before. And for Nao, last time he played Mia, he got absolutely rocked, but I think Nao has gotten a lot better since then. I also think that Korin is a really solid pick into Game Watch, so that's an upset I could see happening. Maybe Masa has a chance. It's not like Falco absolutely destroys Game Watch, but I don't think the matchup is necessarily unwinnable, and Masa has had some incredibly high ceiling. Same thing with Tama, but that matchup actually is unwinnable, so if Tom is able to pull that off, that would be kind of ridiculous because, again, Bayo Game Watch is very, very tough. So I do expect me to make it through to at least the winner's semifinals. I think Nao and Matara can give him a little bit of trouble, but still, he would be the favorites going into both those matchups. Then this little chunk of the bracket right here, I think the biggest upsets are likely going to be possibly Matsunabe over Hito. I could definitely see that one again. It's going to be Bowser versus Falco, which is definitely not a fun matchup for Bowser. Of course, you just need to hit Falco once to get back into the game, but that's every single Bowser matchup. Kind of the same thing with Umeki as well. I think both these players can take out Hito, but it's going to have to be a lot of work because Hito is just such a scary player in bracket. And just because you have a good matchup going into him doesn't mean that you're going to beat him. Regardless, though, I would favor Ken versus probably all of these players. I definitely think that Ken is going to make it to the winner semifinals. I think potentially Snow could give him some trouble, not because the matchup's super good for Mario, but Snow has just been super impressive as of late, and I definitely think that he is good enough to take out a player of Ken's caliber, so we'll have to see how that unfolds. But likely we are going to get Mia versus Ken in the winner semifinals, and Mia has been very dominant in that matchup historically, so kind of boring for the first pick, but I think Mia is going to be going through on the winner's side. Editing proof block here. I was just curious about the Falco matchup charts, and as you can see, Game & Watch is actually a very, very bad matchup, so scratch what I said about Masa. I still think he has a chance versus Mia, but in the same category as Tama, where the character does super bad, but the player is good enough. Our next part of the bracket's going to have a little bit more drama. You're going to have T in there. It's been a little bit since we've seen him at the top level of Smash. It's going to be interesting to see how he does, but don't want to jump the gun here. We got to talk about our top seed, which is Osimo, and I actually do think that Osimo is going to get upset. I think both Noi and Jagaimo are actually really scary opponents. I would favor Osimo into both of them, but those are definitely players that could take him out. But if Tsubaki is able to beat Nietono and Gak, which is a lot because Nietono was incredible at Delta 5. If he's able to play like that, that's going to be a struggle for Tsubaki, and I don't think that Joker does super well versus Diddy Kong, but if he's able to get over that hurdle and then beat Gak as well, I think he has a pretty decent shot versus Osimo. As you can see, they have only played one time, and it was at Japan 24, did go Game 5, and that is a long time ago, but I think Tsubaki has gotten tremendously better since then, so I would favor him going into Osimo, and then we're going to get likely Yoshidora or T. I think it is going to be one of these players. It's not impossible that Yoshidora falls to Repo, Persema, even Toraguri, or the same thing for T. He has double Shulk, so if he's not liking that matchup, could be a bit rough for him, but I don't think that both of these players are going to get upset. I think it's definitely going to be one of them, and because I think it's Tsubaki, he has never played against Yoshidora, so that's probably the opponent that he wants to get, and he has only played one time against T. Did end up losing that, but it was a best of 3 set, and also it was 7 months ago, so it's kind of tough to tell how that would go. I am going to be picking Yoshidora to go through on the winner's side, though, just considering he has never played Tsubaki before, and I think that would give the advantage to Yoshidora just because that Yoshi is feral, especially in the bracket. If you've never played it, it can be really difficult to adapt to, and overall, he has a 4-2 record versus T, so he'd be the favorite going into that matchup. Might cut off literally last second, but all I said is I think Yoshidora is going to go through on the winner's side. Also, I didn't even acknowledge the possibility that Osimo might just beat Tsubaki or Tsubaki doesn't make it to Osimo. So in those situations, it's either going to be Nietono or Gakten. As you can see, 1-0 record versus Nietono, but the last time they played was a year ago. So it's kind of tough to gauge how that would go. I would favor Osimo going into it. 3-1 versus Gakten, who's got a pretty solid record there. 5T record versus T, so actually really strong. Last time they played was 2 months ago as well, so that's fairly recent. And a 2-4 record versus Yoshidora. So it doesn't really change my pick. I still think Yoshidora is going through on the winner side, but I wanted to at least give Osimo some more credit. And I'll get to the Akala part of the bracket in just a second because this is by far the most interesting part of the bracket. No offense to the players on in here, but just look at this thing. So let's talk about the Shuon part first, and it is 1,000% the Shuon show over here. If you look at the opponents that he's likely to face off against for top 8 qualifiers, Kameme, Takara, Yara, and I'm, he has blowout records versus all of these players, all the win rates being higher than 75%. I guess it is 75% with I'm, and to be fair, a lot of these sets, especially for players like Kameme, can be in the pre-quarantine era, but he's won his last 5 encounters versus Kameme. He's been blowing I'm out of the water, and Olimar just does really well versus Sheik. He's been destroying Takara. He's got a 3-0 record versus Yara. It's just a lot of very strong matches for Shuon. And even if you look at his earlier parts of the bracket, likely going to be against Chicken, Ryuo, or Yamanoction. He has Olimar for Chicken and Ryuo because Olimar does great into Diddy Kong. Yamanoction may be a little bit scary because he's been on such a tear as of late, but Shuon has beaten Akala before, not consistently, but he's shown that he has enough efficiency in the matchup to be favored there. I think if Shuon is going to get upset at any point in this bracket, it's going to be before this even segment of the bracket starts, or it's going to be to Riziasu, maybe Aegis going on an absolutely ridiculous run as well, but I don't think Shuton's going to get upset. I think out of every single player in this tournament, including Akla and Mia, I'm the most confident that Shuton is going to top 8 to the winner's side. Now, is that going to be a jinx? Probably. Maybe Kananabe will go on an absolutely ridiculous run. It's not impossible that Fire goes off super hard. He is a very promising player right now, but Shuton just has such dominant records versus all the players that he's likely to play against that unless someone goes on a hero run or is playing out of their mind versus him, he's going to top 8 winner's side. And our final top 8 qualifier is probably the craziest top 8 qualifier I have ever seen at a Smash event. You have Akala, Proto Bonham, and Zachary Hurt playing before winners quarterfinals. Like, this part of the bracket is so stacked. You're going to have Senra Otorier, and if Senra does make the upset of Otorier, which I think he can do, he goes into Akala, who he has beaten before in Jigglypuff Steve. I don't even know how that works, but he's done it before. He can do it again. You're going to have Reno, who's a player that's been able to pop off super, super hard at certain events. Flo is probably going to be the best invader coming into this event. I'm curious to see how he does against the Japanese team. There's just so many talented players that could make upsets, but even if everything goes as projected, it's still insane. We're likely going to get Akala versus Proto Bonham, and I would favor Akala going into this one. Overall, the record is in his favor, and he has won their last encounter at Summit, though. It was an extremely competitive set, and I'm sure Proto Bonham's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve, but Akala is still going to be the favorite going in. You're going to have likely Zachary versus Hurt, which is a pretty interesting one to me. I am going to slightly favor Zachary because he's probably going to have to beat Dio to get in this point in the bracket, and overall, I think he is a player that is pretty good versus Snake, but Hurt, he showed me some incredible stuff at Delta 5 and other events as well where I really can't count him out anymore. And honestly, if he beats Zachary, I would favor him versus Akala. He won the first set in Grand Finals of Delta 5. Second set was extremely competitive, could have gone either way, so I think that if Hurt is able to make it to the winner's quarters, I would have him over Akala. But I think out of all of the top seeds, like of these top 4, Hurt probably has the hardest bracket. He's going to have Sigma, which is definitely a super hard matchup tech, and then Doran Migi, which can be a struggle, especially if Doran Migi is playing at his peak like he was at Meisuma. So I think Hurt's got a difficult bracket, but after what I saw at Delta 5, nothing is impossible. Heading proof block, I realized I didn't even talk about Akala versus Zachary. This is a pretty interesting one. They've only played one time before in the winners finals of Kagaribi 10, and Akala did win it, but it was an extremely competitive set, and that was when Zachary was only playing Pit, and he started playing some other characters recently, most notably the Joker and the Rob. He's finally gone back to them, so he has a lot of characters to choose from. I think Rob does pretty well versus Steve, so I definitely think that's an upset that Zachary can make. I am still going to favor Akala, though, because overall he does have the record win, as well as Zachary not really having any experience against these crazy Steve players, aside from that one time that he did play Akala, but it's definitely an upset that could happen, especially if the Rob comes out. And as per usual, we're not going to be taking a look at the losers bracket. And just in case you're new or you forgot, the reasoning that we don't do that is these events are so insanely fickle. You have 2,800 entrants. I can guarantee you that at least 80% of these matchups aren't even going to happen. So it's not really worth talking about. And what I've done instead is I've taken my top 20 players, well, 21 this time around, that I think are going to top 8, and I've given them their percentages. And as you can see, we have the confidence here with Aquila, Shuon, Yoshidora, Mia. These are just the guys that I picked to top 8 through the winner side of the bracket, and Shuon is in that golden highlight because, yes, I'm very confident. You have the somewhat confidence here. Now, normally I would have 4 players in here. These are the people that I think would top 8 through the loser side. Ken and Kameme are still going to be in there. But you have the odds here, which has never been here. And the reasoning for that is because I don't really know how these players are going to do. You have Proto Bonham and T, very good players. And if they're playing how they normally play, or even better than that, I would expect them to top 8, maybe even through the winner's side. But we just don't know how they're going to play. It's been a while since we've seen them at the top level, especially Proto Bonham, so we're just going to have to wait till that unfolds. You're going to have Zachary as well. Now, Zachary's year has been really interesting. It's been really bad placement, then he gets third at Kagaribi, then a really bad placement, then third at Kagaribi, then a really bad placement. Now, it is Kagaribi time, so the stats are saying that he should get third, but I just really don't know how it's going to happen. You also have the added factor of him picking up 2 more characters for this tournament in Rob and Joker, potentially even more, and there's ups and downsides to that. The main downsides being obviously you're going to be splitting your practice to multiple characters, and the upsides are going to be that he's not playing on mid-tier anymore, so it's really going to be which characters is he playing and how is he playing on the day. But I do think that the Kagaribi blessing is real, so maybe a little bit more favored than the other players. And then you're going to have Hurt. Now, the only reason Hurt isn't in the somewhat confident tier is because he's only had 1 performance at the major level that justifies him being that high. And even though it was very recent, it's kind of weird for me to say that Lightning is guaranteed to strike twice. Now, I personally think that Hurt is a Lightning rod, and it's going to happen over and over and over again, but it just wouldn't really be fair to the other players to push him so high just because he has 1 good placement. So that's why he is in the odds here. You have the could happen tier with Yara, Hito, Tsubaki, and Neo. Now, Neo did have a pretty rough Delta 5, but I do expect him to bounce back. His year has been pretty incredible in general. And Tsubaki, Hito, and Yara, they've all had shines of greatness as well, especially Yara. He's probably the player that's most likely to top 8 of this crew. Sorry, my mic cut out halfway through the perchance here, so we're just going to redo it. You have Riziasu, Snow, Now, Gact, and Jogaboo. And I want to say this right now. I have been downplaying Now a lot in my recent videos, and it's not because I don't like him. It's just because I've been missing a lot of his really good results. He's been incredible this year, and even though I still think that Snow is the best Mario in Japan right now, I could definitely see both these players getting into top 8. Riziasu has been insanely good these past couple events, and he also has such a deep character pool where there's no really unwinnable matches for him in the bracket, so I definitely think that he can make a run. Gact has the highest highs I have ever seen from an S player, and I think if he's playing like that, he could definitely get into the top 8. Same thing from Jogaboo as well. He has just been so good as of late, the best Captain Falcon in the world by far right now. Maybe Andrik is still in contention for that title, but the way that Jogaboo's playing, especially when he's playing good, such a scary player, so I could see him in the top 8. And finally, you're going to have the Prodigy Palooza with Fire and Doran-Migi. Now, Hurt should probably fall into this category, but Hurt, he's had a lot of really good regional performances and that really strong regional or major performance at Delta 5, and also that was the last event, so he's got a little bit more credit there. But Doran-Migi, if he's able to play like he was playing at Meisuma, I think he can get top 8 Fire. If he's able to play like he was at Jingi number 2, I think he can get top 8, but it's just going to come down to, are they playing at those peaks? And finally, we have our top 8, and we are just going to be doing the projected seeds just because I do want to give credit to people that were actually see the top 8 of this event. In the winner's side, you're going to have Mia versus Osimo and Aquila versus Shuto. Now, these are really easy matchups to decide because Mia absolutely destroys Osimo. The record is like 1-14, something absurd like that. Now, Osimo has been doing a lot better in the recent encounters, and he was able to take a set recently at Ultcore, but considering that was the only set he took to Mia's being in the double digits, he's definitely not the favorite going in. Then you're going to have Aquila versus Shuton, and as I kind of mentioned earlier on in the video, Shuton has beaten Aquila 1 time, but it was just 1 time. Aquila has won it every other encounter, and he is the favorite going into that. In the loser side, you're going to have Ken Yoshidora and Zachary versus Kameme. Now, for Ken Yoshidora, they haven't played in 9 months, but overall the record is going to be into Ken's favor, and I would expect him to win this set. Now, I know for the past couple months, pretty much every single time I bring up Ken, I talk about how he should just play Sonic and drop Sephiroth because that character's trash. But I do think that in this one very specific matchup, Sephiroth might be the better choice. I think both characters are a fine choice. I don't think that Yoshi does super well into Sonic. Sonic still probably wins the matchup, but I do think that Sephiroth does do a little bit better. So whichever character Ken chooses, both of them are going to be good picks, which allows him to switch up the tempo by going from a really fast character in Sonic that he plays really slowly to a not as fast character in Sephiroth that he still plays slowly. Ken isn't a player that changes up the tempo too much from character to character, but he does have that choice to maybe mix things up a little bit, and because of that, I am going to be favoring him. Then you're going to have Zachary versus Kameme. Now, I don't have the record pulled up, but believe me, it is very skewed in Zachary's favor, as well as Zachary being one of the players in the world that's probably good versus Sora because he's the only player in the world that has won a major with Sora. Y'all probably forgot that. It was out of Kagaribi, which is like, shocker, I know, but Zachary, the only player in the world to actually win a major with Sora. He has the peak Sora result, and considering that Kameme is likely going to go Sora versus him, it's not impossible that she comes out, but Zachary also plays Sheik. Maybe the Mega Man could do some work, but I think Zachary's definitely the favorite. And for anyone curious about the record, it is only 5-2, so not as dramatic as I made it, but still in Zachary's favor. In losers quarters, you're going to have Shuon versus Ken and Osimo versus Zachary. Now, for Shuon, Ken, they have played a lot and have a ton of experience against each other, so it's kind of tough to predict how these sets are actually going to go. It's kind of like when Mars and Light play each other in bracket. They just have so many reps against each other that it's a lot of player versus player going for insane reads that no one else would pick up on. So I don't really know how it's going to unfold. Shuon usually does win it though, so he is going to be my pick. I also think that Aegis is a pretty good choice into Sonic, unless your name is Sonic, and even then it's not a bad choice. Then you're going to have Osimo versus Zachary. Now this one is really weird because these guys have only played twice. One of them was Sora versus Ryu, and the other one was Pit versus Ryu. And even though Osimo did win that one, we've never seen the players play against the Joker or the Rob or the Sheik or the Wolf. Again, Zachary's got a lot of choices, and I am going to be picking Zachary for that reason, as well as Zachary choking the set versus Osimo pretty hard. If I recall, he had a pretty big lead, I believe, on this game 3 and blew it super hard, and I don't think that Zachary is going to do that again, so he's my pick to win the set. Editing proof block, once again, I know I've been here a lot this video, but what can I say? I've been talking without the evidence. He actually choked super hard on the game 3 and then got reversed throughout, so still a choke. So we have our winners finals being Akala Mia and our losers semifinals being Shuon Zachary. Now for Akala Mia, he choked it at Meisuma top 14. He choked it at Delta 5. He is not going to choke it at Kagaribi 11. I do think that Mia is going to win this set. And I know I said that the last 2 times, but his game plan going in was super solid. He looked really strong, but when it came to closing out the set, he just let it slip away from him. And part of that was because Akala was making pretty insane comebacks. And I also want to be super surprised if Akala just adjusted to Mia's game plan really well and blew him out of the water. But in my heart of hearts, I believe that Mia can win this set and that he should win this set and get himself into the grand finals winner side. Then we're going to have Shuon versus Zachary. Now this is another very storied matchup, 19-14 overall. We haven't seen a ton of sets where Zachary is on the pit, but also I can't even guarantee he's going to be playing the pit. He has 30 characters to choose from, and Shuon has a bunch of characters to choose from. This is just a really tough matchup to predict, because we don't know what characters are going to be starting with, we don't know how they're going to counterpick, and the record is overall so even between them. I'm going to give it to Zachary just because he has deeper pockets, as well as the record being slightly in his favor, but we really don't know how that's going to unfold. Then you're going to have Akala versus Zachary in the losers finals, and kind of touched on this earlier. I think if Zachary wants to win, his best chance is probably going to be with the Rob. I still think he can do it with his other characters, but I think Rob is his best shot. Even with that, though, I would still favor Akala. He's got the record overall. Zachary probably doesn't have enough Steve experience to be able to get the win, and also, it would be funny if I predicted Zachary to get third, so that's what we're going to do. And in the grand finals, we're going to have Akala versus Mia. Now, this is how it's going to go. I'm going to paint you a picture. Mia, first set, 3-0, absolutely destroyed. He's very nervous, you have to remind her, but in that first set, he's able to collect his nerves, get a little bit deeper breathing, and in the second set, he is able to take the tournament from Akala and win Kagaribi 11. This is honestly a super hype tournament because Kagaribi 8 and Kagaribi 7 were Akala and Mia's breakout tournaments respectively. Akala had it first at 7 and then Mia had it at 8. So it's going to be a super sick storyline to see, okay, they meet in the grand finals. Who's going to be able to take it? And I'm going to say that Mia is able to come out on top. And I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The support has been absolutely unreal as of late. Now, I can guarantee that I left out a handful of players in this video because there are so many amazing ones at this event. So if you're curious about how a player's bracket is, leave a comment down below if there's something I got wrong. Or if you just want to say hi, I mean, I already said what to do. Be sure to sub, all that yada yada, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.